car insurance. Most states, or the state that you live in, is kind of what you depend on for what you have to have for a minimum value of insurance. So notice up here, you have to have bodily injury and property damage insurance. If you would get pulled over or in an accident and you did not have this, you would go to jail. Well, first you'd go to the hospital, and then you would go to jail. You possibly wouldn't go to the hospital, but you're definitely going to go to jail.
That's scary.
No, you're going to go to jail.
The one time I went to the hospital for an appointment and there was a guy in chains and I was by myself and I was very scared. That was horrible.
You probably did this. Okay? Notice the next comment. The amount varies drastically from state to state. So you just have to know what you, obviously, hopefully you know what state you're living in, but you would have to just see what the difference is. So there's 4 basic types. And again, until I started teaching this class, I honestly had no idea about this stuff. So I'm guessing the majority of you probably don't know a lot of this stuff. Number 1 type is bodily injury. This covers your liability for injuries of others. So if you get in an accident, Molly hits Tiff, and Tiff breaks her arm, Molly's insurance would pay for that part through the bodily injury portion of it.
Could have gone for the easy one.
Okay. Number 2, property damage. This covers damage to others' property, including their vehicles. So this would be when Tyrell's rounding a corner and it's icy out and he keeps on going and takes out somebody's mailbox. Right? So he smokes the mailbox, knocks it off or breaks it off of its pole or whatever. The part of his premium for property damage would pay for that. Okay? Collision covers damage to your own vehicle. So again, if somebody hit you in a parking lot and they didn't leave a note, this portion of your insurance would cover that. And then the last one is comprehensive damage. This covers, obviously, as you can read up here, damage or loss of the vehicle from fire, theft, vandalism, or hail. So this would be like somebody keyed your car in the parking lot out here. So there's a big hailstorm and your roof got damaged. Okay? This is the portion of that that would cover
So
that.
my sister's car was stolen, so would we get the comprehensive damage thing?
Yes, they would use that. Now, didn't you say her keys were left in it?
Yes.
I don't think they can consider that stolen.
Oh, what?
Wow,
If your keys
Really?
are in there still?
It's because it's your fault.
Wait, what if you take the extra set of keys and say they weren't?
I still don't.
Well, then how, what?
Say it wasn't stolen, or say it was stolen, but the keys weren't in it.
Well, I guess.
How would they know, basically?
That's insurance fraud, Donald.
Well, because if they found the car and there's no damage to, the undercarriage that they hotwired it or something, they had to start it somehow. You know what I mean?
Plus, if you have stuff on your keychain and then they find your keys in your little keychains.
One time I went to Sioux City and someone absolutely railed our mailbox, but they didn't tell us, they just left the 2x4 in a new mailbox.
They did?
They did. They left a brand new mailbox in a 2x4 sitting on the porch with a note, sorry, I hate your mailbox.
That's funny.
Well,
Can you go to jail for that?
Well, they replaced it.
Yeah, but we don't know who it was. They didn't sign the note.
Sorry, I turned the mailbox.
all right, so turn the page and look at page 256. This is a little chart that goes over basically the 4 things that we just talked about. Now, if my dad was here, or we would call him again, he would say, at every opportunity, buy as much as you possibly can, or as much as you possibly can afford. So notice there's other like category or certain categories. See how it's $25 and then $50 and then $100, and then obviously as you pay more, you get more out of it. He would recommend you getting as much as you possibly can that you can afford. So if you can afford the $100 a month for bodily injury, go with that. All right? Because you always want to have as much as you possibly can. in every single portion of it. Okay? When you do this now, basically, the limits, when it says $50,000/$100,000, 100 or the $50,000 is per accident. The first number is per person. Okay? Notice then along the other columns where it says pleasure use, driving to work, and business. Pleasure use would just basically mean your car in general that you would use all the time. Okay, driving to work, if you only use that as you driving to work. So examples of this would be if you have multiple cars, or if you could prove that you're really doing it, driving it from A to B. All right, and then your business one would be if you would actually have a business car, meaning the business would give it to you. Okay, and so the part that you got to be really careful of, especially if you own your own business and you're giving out cars for your employees to drive, that they don't use this, or if you allow them to use this for their personal use, like on the weekends. It's a big deal. Because unfortunately, if you allow this and they stop at P's Friday night after work and come home, then that affects the entire company's insurance policy. See what I'm getting at? So just make sure. There's a big difference there, okay?
So, say you're using your company car and like you get in a crash, well, of course that would raise the company's rates, so would they charge you?
Depends. I mean, that would be all, what kind of job is it? What kind of, was it your fault? Was it their fault? Was it, were you intoxicated? Were you, there's a lot of variables that would be involved.
So like, if it was your fault, they could, because don't you have to sign a contract like a company car? So if it was your fault, they could technically raise or lower your paycheck to pay for their rates because you caused it?
Right.
Okay.
And so then, like through the business end, I don't know how that actually works out per person. But I would assume when they say business in this part, they're saying that if Derek owns his own business and you're all getting a car from Derek, Derek's paying that policy. You guys aren't paying a part of that. It's not like medical insurance where even though we're in a group plan, that we're not paying individual portions of that for that group plan. So when it says business in this case, I would say that that's that business person's responsibility. Now, if you have multiple accidents, I would say you would get fired before anything else.
Yeah.
They're just going to say, hey, or they're going to say you can't use our vehicles. Okay. Places like, again, I'll bring up P's, that would have delivery, or Pizza Godfathers. Notice Godfather's cars around town, or Pizza Ranch cars around town. Okay. Pizza Ranch is still in charge of those cars. So like when I was a part of Townhouse, we had delivery, but we didn't have delivery cars. We made the person use their own car. So we got around with the insurance part of it that way. Okay?
For the money paid for the insurance, you never used that, you never crashed or anything, did you ever see that money back?
Nope. That's where, again, that's how insurance companies make money. They anticipate, or they want you not to ever be in an accident. Because then you're basically paying it to them, but they're not giving out. So that's how they're making their money.
For the companies that you have to use your own car for delivery and stuff, do they pay you for gas?
We usually gave percentages of each, or you got a certain amount for every delivery. So we didn't necessarily do a specific mileage, but we did. Other places when my dad worked for a company in Cedar Rapids, but still lived over here, he got a company car. And they gave him a gas card. So like, he could use it for, regular things, meaning family, everyday life, but he also used it as a, so like, if we went to see my sister in Omaha, we would always take that company car because they were paying for the gas. You know, so as long as you wrote it down, they didn't really balk. His company did. But there again, some people might really look into that. Obviously, if your gas bill is, you know, extraordinary, they're gonna say, well, what are you doing on the weekends?
Is that the same with like,
Driving company.
semi-truck companies?
Say it one more time.
Semi-truck companies, like.
Yeah, they would pay per, they would pay mileage. Yep. Okay, so, again, this is a really important chart. Other little things that I wrote in the column for this, comprehensive, my dad would say that this is for small things, like you're getting keyed and stuff. Collision is for your vehicle. Property damage is the things that you hit. And bodily injury is for other people.
Is that not for yourself? Just for other people?
Well,
If you hit someone else or something? Or you
yeah,
hit someone?
basically, it's more for when you hit Tiff and Tiff broke her arm. Okay? Not literally hit her in another car.
So could you technically get like the lowest amount on that?
You can get the lowest of everything, yes, but it could bite you in the butt if you actually got in an accident.
Cause
Wouldn't
that's
you have
what
to pay
my
out of
dad,
your
the other
pocket?
person didn't have like good insurance, so they didn't pay much.
Right. So essentially, yeah, but then you could have taken them to court if you wanted to. But those kind of things would take a long time to settle in court. Just because there's so many of them, and to even get a spot in court is what takes a long time for that kind of stuff.
You have to have every one of these, or like, can you just like not do the one where it's like if your car gets keyed or something?
Well, notice, yeah, so in a sense, there's gonna be a portion of everything. You don't have to get all of them, no. So like, notice up here, some states combine 1 and 2 into one minimum package. And that minimum package is what you need to have. So you always wanna have the first 2. And then the last 2 are just kind of tag-ons. So yeah, your premium would go up because of adding those on. But again, so I reiterate that if you can't afford it, get as much as you possibly can. Okay, even with the add-ons.
So is that what you're saying, like, if you get in a crash, would they have like the lowest possible insurance, and then they won't even be able to pay for your car? Is there, like, is there instances, is there instances where they can't pay for your car? Is there
Your car
instances-
will get fixed before their car. But if they have the minimum amount, then you would only get a portion maybe of what yours needed. So if they basically totaled your car, but they have the minimum amount, they're gonna pay up to that certain amount, and then you would be responsible thereafter.
Well, then you could take it to court if you want the whole.
You could, but you're probably not gonna get the money, and it's just gonna cost you more in the long run. You know what I mean? Because there's so many of those kind of little petty things that, you know, unfortunately, they don't really mean a whole lot to the state, you know, so they're not gonna jump you ahead of people that have serious things going on. Not that you don't think it's serious, because obviously you're out of the car at that time, but. Notice here then, you got on 2 pages, there's a part that you can get uninsured motorist insurance. So this protects versus damage to your vehicle or injury to persons in the vehicle caused by a driver without insurance. So if you had ran into somebody that didn't have any insurance, but you had a portion of this on yours, then that would help you out. So instead of you having to pay everything out of pocket, you could use this portion right here. Okay? So on page 256, that little chart again is going to be talking about your premiums. This premium right here, you would total up all of the things that you wanted. So when Derek said, do I need all of them? You would tally up what you need. Notice over here, 100 for the collision. You have a $100 deductible, a $250, a $500. if I have the $500 deductible compared to the $100 deductible, what is better for me? Well, again, this is where you would probably, in Molly's case, you would probably want the $100 deductible because she might get in accidents more often. If you're I'm not saying she's not a good driver, but if you're a better driver than Molly, you might want the $500 deductible, because if I get the higher deductible, obviously I have to pay more when I get in an accident, but I'm counting on not getting in an accident. So if I have the higher deductible, my rate would be lower. That make sense? Notice how much it lowers. The $100 deductible compared to the $500 deductible is what? $200 cheaper. But again now, if I get in an accident, then I have to take the first $500 I'm responsible for before the insurance kicks in. That makes sense what we're saying there?
I don't get it.
Okay, so see how it says 500 to 100? Deductibles is what you have to pay no matter what before your insurance kicks in. So if you get in an accident and it costs, for the collision portion of it, it was $800. You would have to pay the first $500. Then they would pay the other $300. But if you never got in an accident, it would only cost you $261 compared to $466 if I never had to use it. Okay? But if I used it a lot, then I would want a higher or a lower deductible because I only have to pay the first $100. So in that same $800 accident, if I had this one, I'm paying $300. If I had this one, if I have this one, the insurance is paying $300. If I have this one, the insurance is paying $700 of that $800.
So you have to pay more for the 100 than you do for the 500?
Right, because they're going to get their money either way, the insurance company. This is for me paying the insurance company this amount to have this part of it. So basically, if I only have a $100 deductible, every time that I get in an accident, I'm only going to have to pay the first $100. Everything after that, the insurance pays for it. So if I wreck my truck right now and it's $10,000 and I have a $100 deductible, the insurance company pays $9,900.
So which one do you want? Do you want the 500 or do you want the 100?
Yeah, it depends on how good of a driver you are.
So it's the first time one,
No, Molly.
No, this would be a total, this would be a yearly thing, but you could divide it into monthly payments. Okay, we'll go over that in just a second. Okay, does that make sense though now? So if
you want
you're,
the 100 one.
yes, but you're gonna pay more for it in a year. You understand what I'm saying? So if you crash a lot, this is better for you because you don't have to pay, you only have to pay $100 per crash. Anything over $100, the insurance company will get. But if you pay this one, if it's, so if this is $1,000, the crash was $1,000, and you have this one, the insurance only pays $500 of that $1,000. You have to pay the first $500. This one, you pay the first $100, and they would pay $900. But they're going to get back at you by charging you more for it, for this one.
It's basically the same.
Unless you're, if you're not going to get in an accident, I would want to pay I would want this one down here because then my yearly premium is only that, and I'm taking a chance on that. That's why even in some accidents, if I have a $500 deductible, and I take it to the shop and it's only going to cost me $460, I might not even put it into insurance. Because I have to pay that anyway, right? Because I have a $500 deductible. That's what you have to think about.
So your dad said that, like, if you can afford it, just buy it,
Yep.
But for, like, this, like, what if you were a pretty, like, wealthy person? Why wouldn't you just do the $500 one? Like, if you get in a crash.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree. You're exactly right.
So you get the crash, the insurance rates obviously go up,
Yep.
Say you crash into someone else, can you, if you didn't want your insurance rates to go up, can you pay for all of that in cash and just not tell the insurance company?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how some people get away with it, yeah.
Does the other person have a say on that?
Probably not.
You would, at that time of the accident, you would sit down with it, or you would get out and say, hey, I would rather take care of this than sending it to my insurance company. I totally accept responsibility, and I have proof of insurance, you know, but some people, the people that do that right away at the accident are probably the ones that might not have insurance. So they don't even want it to go to like the cops and stuff, because if they get involved, then that's a big fine or going to jail for not having that insurance portion. But still, yes. So you look at me backing into you in the parking lot here, and it's just a little, you know, dent or whatever. I chipped your paint. Well, to get it repainted, it's $300. I'm going to pay that probably and not send it into my insurance, so my rates don't go up. And I would have to probably pay for it anyway because my deductible wouldn't have been met. You know what I'm saying?
So we actually did this, I ran into my garage, and, yeah, we're just like, we're not gonna tell anyone about this, we're just gonna pay for it.
Right.
So then,
Was the damage to the garage or the car?
garage, the Jeep, she wasn't even phased. I was
So-
going 6,000 RPMs into that babe.
My niece just backed out of the garage and she ripped off the mirror. You know?
Oh, been there, done that.
I think
Yeah, I thought.
so.
We don't live I also hit a tree in my yard and a barn.
You with your car?
Yeah.
You hit a tree.
No, with herself.
You didn't see it?
Hey, it's hard at night.
They jump
It's
in
hard
front
to
of you.
see.
Yeah, it just appeared one day. I was just, never noticed that tree.
Oh,
Never
is it-
noticed that one.
Was it at night or during the day?
It was in the morning, so there was light, but I just.
See, at least I did mine in pitch black.
Oh my gosh. I'm really worried.
Okay, but when I hit the barn, it was dark out.
My sister was still on like her 16-year-old license or whatever it was. So she got in another accident, her license got taken away. And so then she got in an accident and my mom had to jump in. And she just went to school.
Right.
Nice.
I fear my life.
Alright, let's finish up so we can get into this. Alright, so my premium. We talked about the premiums now. This is what we're going to get a bill for. Alright, so like Derek said, I'm going to go through and decide what I want in that green chart. And then we're going to tally up all of those things, and that's my premium for the year.
You're telling me I could have sued Lauren for breaking my car?
Say it one more time.
I could have sued Lauren for breaking my car?
Basically.
Technically, she didn't break anything.
She smoked it.
Yeah, but she smoked
She
your
was a
tire.
fire at the top, out of the
Wait.
fire rod.
Could I sue Landon? He slammed my finger in a door and it still hasn't gotten better since freshman year.
I
No.
remember that.
Alright, so, listen to me now. Here again, look, your premium, you're gonna get a bill and they're gonna ask you, do you wanna make monthly, annually, or semi-annually payments? I think I already told you this once. I redid my premium and I switched it to an annual payment. So again, I have to pay the whole thing at one time, at that time, but it actually lowered my entire premium. So if you pay it in monthly installments, it'll be a little higher than if you pay it annually. Again, why? They get their money right away, right? They know how much money they're gonna get. Notice here, this is big for the assignment. If they say they had standard coverage, you have the lowest category of each. Now, this is where the confusion part, when we say the lowest category of each, they're talking about price. Okay, so notice in the, like the collision part, the lowest one would be the $500 deductible one. So even though it's the highest deductible, it's the lowest one because of the price. That makes sense? The one above it, now it goes in the opposite order. So the property damage would be the $25,000 one, because again, look at the price. $60 or $55 cheaper than the 100,000. Okay? Alright?
In the questions, will it tell you whether it's pleasure or driving?
Yes. Yes. And then they'll say this right here about standard coverage, that's why you gotta make sure of it. Notice here, insurance companies set their own rates, so this chart would be for one individual company. This would be for EGR Insurance, that's where my dad works now. State Farm would have another one. Progressive would have another one, so on and so forth. Okay, so you can kind of set your own. That's where you might want to, especially at the beginning, go around and check them all out. All right? Now, obviously, if you have friends involved in it or something, you might go that route just because of it. But
Go, what are you talking about?
what do you mean?
Go what route?
Well, like, let's say Ty Kirk just got an insurance. If he calls you, you might go with him just because you know him.
For insurance, is that what you're talking
Or insurance.
Oh.
Again, varies state to state, city to city. It's going to be a lot different in Chicago than it is going to be in Mobile, Iowa. Right? We got a town of 1,500 people. We got a town of 7 million. Okay? In the town of Mobile, if we back into somebody's car in the parking lot, we're probably not going to sue them as much as maybe over there. Okay? Somebody slams your finger in the door, you probably don't whine about it for 4 years unless you're
That hurt.
a big baby.
It still's not good.
Get over it.
I thought it was funny.
Higher rates on vehicles used for business versus your personal vehicle. So again, why that is because business people, unfortunately, when you give them a car, they might not take as good a care of it, right? As you would hope they would. Notice the next one. This one's huge for you guys right now. Rates higher for people under 25. Why? You guys are idiots. You run into trees and stuff. You run into garages and stuff. Okay? You're in a parking lot with a bunch of other idiots. So obviously we're going to charge you more. Right? What? Knock on wood, buddy. Okay? So, then the last thing we talk about is cost of operating a car. What are your costs? Maybe you don't pay them right now. Maybe mom and dad help you a lot, or grandpa and grandma, or whoever gives you the car. But what do you have to pay for? In general. Gas. Insurance. Registration.
Sensies.
What? Maintenance, right? Maintenance is a big one. Tires. Your license plate.
You have to pay for your license plate?
You gotta pay for your license plate every year.
No.
Okay?
You have to buy those stickers, don't you?
Yep, the sticker is you buying your license plate every
Yeah,
year.
great sticker.
So you don't get a new license plate every year, you get a new little sticker. But again, hey, listen to me. Me switching vehicles just last year, right? I got a new truck. The car, or my old car versus the new one, I think it went up $300 for my license plates. So they charge you more for new cars. Yeah? I don't know. I don't understand it either.
They charge you even more if you
Okay.
personalize it?
What else? Notice these right here. We don't think about parking fees, but going to college now, if you're going to take a car, you probably have to rent out a space, or hopefully your apartment complex has one. But if not, like at Iowa, they have huge parking lots just for kids. You have to rent that space, and then it's 5 miles from your place, so you got to take a bus to go get your car to go home that weekend, and so on and so forth. Okay. Obviously, garage rentals. Don't forget about depreciation, right? And the amount of interest you lost. What does that mean again? The amount of interest. So instead of me keeping my money in the bank, I decided to buy a car. So I'm losing interest on that money. That's all that means. But that would be negative to your part. Okay? So let's look at some of these. Yep.
So say you totaled the person's car, how are they gonna find out like how much it's worth?
some guy would come out and look at it, or a lady would come out and look at it. And they would look at, the year and how many miles were on it, put that into perspective. They might not, I mean, if it's a first-year car, they might not exactly know if it was in pristine condition, but they're gonna take into consideration that it was a one-year-old vehicle with 4,000 miles on it. So, page 257, letter A. Oliver insures the car that he drives to work. His coverage is $25,000/$50,000 bodily injury, $50,000 property damage, and $250 deductible collision, and $100 deductible comprehensive. Use the table and see what his premium is. So, how much does he pay for 25/50,000 bodily injury? 22.84. Somebody put that in your calculator. $50,000 damage, he is 179.44. $250 deductible.
358.24.
And $100 deductible.
104.33.
For a grand total of
37, nope, never mind.
I got lost.
$664.85.
$664.85. So basically, you're going through the table, finding where it is, and then just adding those up. Okay? Now remember, that's for what? How long? A year. So again, like I told you, I pay that one time. You could divide that in half and do it 2 times. You could do it monthly. That's solely up to you. Okay? So like in my version of it, if I decide to pay it annually, my total would still be $664.85, but then it might say I get a discount of 2% for paying it annually. That makes sense? $664.85. Letter B says Harriet's car is insured for business use. She chooses the highest coverage limits for bodily and property. The highest ones in this case are going to be the most expensive. Okay? But basically then I'm going to come back and I'm going to use the same numbers. Right?
No.
I mean the same process that we did in the other. Okay? So, do we want to go through that one again?
What's the answer?
$1,064.50. We go to that one?
Yes.
Letter C down below. Now we're going to try to figure out what it's going to cost us to operate the car. Conrad bought a used car for $12,000. His expenses for the first year were gas, repairs, insurance, license plate, loss of interest on his car investment, and depreciation. Find the total operating cost for the year, rounded to the nearest dollar. I don't like when they do that, but whatever. What do I use for depreciation with the 12%?
12,000.
The amount that I bought it for, right? So I'm going to take 12% of 12,480, find an answer, and then add the rest of them all together. Make sense? Anybody do it? So, round to the nearest dollar, and 5. Everybody else get that too? So the first thing I would have done was take 12% of 12,480 for $1,497.60, then add the rest of them together. The next one, basically the exact same thing. Okay? So basically you're just going, you gotta find your depreciation and then you're just adding the rest of them up. Alright?
What section is this?
6A.
Wait, it's
The last 4.
4708. No, 4705.
Hey, Donald, you're just confusing me a lot.
2387.
Dude, that's my It's basically like.
Is it green?
Yes, it
No,
is.
it is not.
Did you hit some or did
It
you?
has the thing over the window.
Or,
It's
not.
definitely older, but.
Like each
Well,
time flashlight has it.
I would say it was my fault.
Definitely not green.
You can see the green
Where?
on the top of the.
So you need to do the, car with the,
It's not green.
where we had a little chart about picking out the certain things that you wanted, like power windows and that kind of thing. So whatever section that was in, all the way to the end. Does that help?
Yeah,
That's 6'5".
So that would be
6'5".
6'5"? Yep. So 6'5", 6'6", 7, and 8. 6'5" through 6'8". So then, Monday,